Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the class in 2 minutes. Okay, we're just going on Facebook Live. It's okay, you can ask me. We're going to go on Facebook Live. The class is going to start 7:30. We're just going on live so people could come on.
What can you do for the score for father and for mother? Then what is this? Is this part of it?
Yeah, there's different versions for it. Is this a Sephardi one?
I don't know. I saw this here.
I don't know. Sephardim, we say Hamerachem. We don't say this one. I could show you in the Sephardic. So it's a different. Yeah. Okay. We are going to, yes, Shalom Aleim. I started your idea. We're going live. Okay, Brandon Yoabian, a shout out to you, dear friend. The class is going to be the 4 most essential books that every Jew should learn. Besides, which there's many. Okay, let me make it clear. If you look all across here, there's thousands of books. We're trying to understand which one of these books are the most essential for us to be able to become a complete Jew. So those that have the Alie Shur, Eitan Cohen, I know you're in Yeshiva or Sameach, but I hope that you're able to join us and watch the video from Israel. So this is called Surat HaYehudi, the essence of a Jew. The prophet Yirmiyah, Jeremiah in chapter 6 says, the great prophet Yirmiyah says, let's go look which is the right way, and then Neshamat Halmiyan. I have no other better way of saying that in English, but you're going to get a very satisfied, and the truth speaks to a person. It's such a shame we have so many Jews becoming Christian and Buddhist. They don't even know the tip of the iceberg. I don't even know the tip of the iceberg of what the Torah is. And therefore, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, which means the Torah is our lifeblood, it's our oxygen, it's our water, but it's such a vast idea that we have to, Rav Wolbe here wants to come and say, what is the special books that if you don't learn these special Torah books, you've missed what Judaism is about. They're so essential. So he brings 4 books down. Rav Wolbe says, he says nowadays that there's so much corruptness and poison. They call light darkness, darkness light. Everything's upside down. Rav Wolbe Zatzal says we have to be directed by our great Torah sages which books are the essence of the Torah. If we don't learn these books, then we're missing the boat. We haven't woken up and smelled the coffee. We don't know what it's all about. Yes, there's a general rule that the way we serve God should give nachat, pleasure to both people, should be satisfied from us, and both God. We shouldn't do it in a fanatical and rude way. But he says still, we have to find a more precise directive. Yes, thank you. Please, everybody, share it on your pages and Facebook. It says still, we need to find a more precise definition of what's the true person. Because in the end of the day, if you learn Torah, it goes one ear, it goes on the other. You don't have good character traits. You're still angry and impatient and greedy. Then it's just like a pig. You're a pig that has the greatest crown jewels in its head, in its nose. The Torah is the greatest jewel. We want the Torah to metamorphosize us and transform us into lofty beings. Which books specifically do we have to study that give that message? And which books will create that true man, that true, the ultimate person that is a personification of godliness and angelicness. That's the goal of the Torah, to create that humble and noble spirit, which anybody that sees that true person is going to be mesmerized and awestruck of how holy and special and unique and wonderful and wholesome such a person is. So which books have the secrets to success? That a young person, Torah is a lifelong mission to become perfect. Every day of our life we grow. That's why God gives us 100, 120 years. If we could have been perfect overnight, we wouldn't have needed such a long lifetime. And that's everything in nature, it takes time for it to grow. Trees, children, even animals, everything in nature, it goes through different stages of maturity till it gets to its most perfect and strongest nature. So he says, which are the books that could point out us and bring out the full potential of the Torah observant Jew? He needs to find out, so that the Torah scholar, the person that really wants to become a sage, a chacham, he needs to get familiar with the spiritual world. He needs to become a master in what we call the spiritual world, where he needs to know 4 books. The Rav Wolbe, and it's really, I think this is a very important lesson that it should be shared with the directors, the menalim, the principals of yeshivot, that they should try to incorporate it, whether in high school or in post-high school, in the Beis Medrash. These books, he says that, first of all, he has to know Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is written by the Chafetz Chaim. It's a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. And lest you tell me I happen to be Sephardi Persian, lest you come and tell me this is only for Ashkenazim. First of all, yes, if you're a Sephardic, you do learn the Mishnah Berurah. And Rav Yitzchak Yosef told me personally, the chief rabbi of Israel, Chacham Ovadiah's son, said this publicly in the LA Kollel, that as the Chafetz Chaim would have known that his work would have been read by Sephardic also, in his commentary he would have even brought down the conclusion for Sephardic. He's coming to explain the Shulchan Aruch, and mostly his goal is to tell you the practical halachot for the Ashkenazim. But a bunch of my friends that have learned in Purat Yosef, which is the gold standard of the Sephardic yeshiva, there they test you on the Mishnah Berurah. Rav Ovadiah, when he wrote a commentary on Hilchot Shabbat, one of his first books, Leviat Chen, it's on the Mishnah Berurah. So therefore, these things are unanimous. Whether you're Sephardic, Ashkenazic, Hasidic, obviously Hasidic are going to have to, Chabad would learn more Tanya, but generally speaking, I think everybody would agree that these 4 books universally are very important. So he says, first of all, you have to get an in-depth understanding of the Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim with the Mishnah Berurah's commentary. And now we have some wonderful books that even bring you the more modern applications, called the Piskei Teshuvot. And then there's the Dirshu, and there's many, many new Mishnah Berurahs that bring even all the modern day scenarios, like microwave on Shabbat or a crock pot. So we've never had so much Torah literature in the history of mankind, I don't think, and available on the internet. The second most important book that every Jew must learn is that you have to learn the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. With what are the 2 crown jewels of commentaries? That with that it's like you didn't learn it. One is Rashi, one is the Ramban. You know, the Rambam wrote the Moreh Nevuchim, which was a great Jewish philosophical book, and he wrote the Yad HaChazaka. But just like it's, to truly understand a Gemara, you have to learn the Rashi and the Tosfot. The Khatam Sofer says, to truly understand the Word of God, the 5 books of Moses, Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim, you must very, very importantly grow through the commentary of Rashi and the Ramban. People tend to overlook the Ramban, but the Ramban deals with major philosophical problems. Rashi has one goal: to concise and condense all the midrashim and the simple meaning and give a commentary. But he's not so much into the big universal philosophical problems of like, how could Jacob's kids, Yaakov Abinu, Reuben, Shimon and Levi, annihilate an entire city because they raped their sister? How were they allowed to do that? So the Ramban goes to explain that. Halachically, hashkafically, the Ramban, I know Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, Shlita, the Gadol Ador in America, told my Rebbe, which is his son-in-law, Rav Tzvi, that the Ramban's works are timeless, and even though halachically we do follow the Rambam in Jewish outlook on how Judaism, the Rambam was not a Kabbalist. The Ramban has like a commentary on the book of Iyov, where the person, why bad things happen to good people. This was already written thousands of years ago in the book of Job, Iyov. And now the Ramban goes to explain there that, so the Ramban has his classical commentary, which is the crown jewel of all commentaries on the 5 books of Torah. Also, he has other works, Torah Ta'adam, where he goes to explain death in Judaism. He has another book where Torah Ta'adam explains what happens to you after you die. And maybe B'li Hashem should help us to go through those books. It's called the Kitvei Ramban. Hashkafically, in Jewish outlook, how the Jew relates to the world, we follow the Ramban more than the Rambam, because the Rambam was not into Kabbalah, and we do incorporate the Kabbalah, the Gra and the Khatam Sofer and the Ravadi and the Ben Ishchai and the Arizal, of course, which was the king. So the third book that every Jew needs to know is Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, but with which the great Sephardic sage, which was a nephew or uncle of the Ramban, Rabbeinu Yonah. With the Rabbeinu Yonah, mein Rebbe, Yaakov Moshe Kalevsky Zatzal, he was very always quoting the Rabbeinu Yonah and Pirkei Avot. There's some fascinating ideas over there. So, and then the fourth book, which is the DNA of what a Jew is. If you want to know what the essence and epitome of the Jewish religion is Mishnah Berurah. You got to know all the halachot that apply on day to day, which obviously you can't learn Mishnah Berurah without learning the Shulchan Aruch. You learn Chumash and Ramban with Rashi and Ramban. The third is you learn Pirkei Avot with the Rabbeinu Yonah's commentary. And the fourth is the Mesilat Yesharim, which Shlomo Lev, I know we've been trying to do the Mesilat Yesharim on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out well, Pacific time, but God willing, the Mesilat Yesharim is, there's a lot of wonderful Jewish ethical books, the Chovat HaLevavot and the Kuzari, and the Rabbeinu Yonah has the Sha'arei Teshubah, and the Rambam has the Hilchot Deot, and the Archat Tzadikim. There's many. The Mabit has a book called Sefer Elokim. But Rav Wolbe Zatzal would say that the most important, already the Grozal and Rav Chaim Volozhiner and the Yeshivot, we know that the pinnacle and the most important of all books of ethics is the Mesilat Yesharim, Path of the Just, written by Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, which happens to be buried right next to Rabbi Akiva. If you go to visit in Israel, I met up with your cousin, actually, at Rabbi Meir's grave there. So we're just going to do one more paragraph, and we'll call it a night. Et penecha ya Yehudi matzav hashulchan aruch. So we have a guiding GPS to tell us how to act from the time we wake up till the time we close our eyes. Teaches us to say Modeh Ani. It teaches us not to walk. It teaches us to do netilah. And so everybody, at least half an hour a day, if in a chavruta or in a class, should be learning halacha. And I would beg to differ with Rav Wolbe, because our crown prince, Rav Ovadia Yosef, which is Yortzeit is coming up, I think it's going to be his 8th year or 7th year. there's no question that even the Sephardic yeshivas, in the Sephardic yeshivas, they do not learn halacha the whole day, because you have to learn how to learn. But Kollel, when you get to Kollel, there's no question you should be learning the Gemara, going to the Tur Bet Yosef, because Rav Shach said this, and I heard this from my Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Aaron Feldman Shlita. The Rav Shach used to always say this, and really, the goal of every Jew should be throughout their lifetime, they should finish all of Shas and Shulchan Aruch. And that's why Rav Yisrael Salanter says that one of the biggest mistakes the Shulchan Aruch made is that he made 4 segments. So people only learn the Orach Chaim. And who am I to argue with Rav Wolbe? He says the Mishnah Berurah, but you have to understand, in Jewish law, besides the first part of there's 4 different parts to the Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch. There's the Orach Chaim, the daily books, that the laws of the Shabbat and daily prayer and so on and so forth. Then there's Yoreh, the laws of kosher and mikveh and nidah and all those. Then there's Even Ezer, the laws that regard men and women, like ketubah and kiddushin and divorce, God forbid. And then the 4th thing is choshen mishpat. Choshen mishpat are the laws of monetary. So, for sure, a person... by the way, they're asking me online that the Jewish books are expensive. No, there's a website, Sefaria, and if you go search online, they teach all these books for free. I'm not charging anybody right now. So, Baruch Hashem, there's never what the prophet says, that before Mashiach comes, there's going to be the knowledge is going to be like a sea of knowledge. Right now, almost any subject, if you go to TorahClasses.com or Torah Anytime or Torah.org, or there's literally, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of different Torah classes by authentic Torah teachers. So it says, and here, Rav Wolbe says it. So it says every person should be learning at least half an hour a day, Shulchan Aruch with Mishnah Berurah. And he says the best way to learn is to look up all the source of the halachot, which the Shulchan Aruch everything is logic in Judaism. Logic. The whole Gemara is a logic. So therefore, Yoav, Brandon, everybody online, Shulchan Aruch is the daily laws of Judaism. How to put on your tefillin, how to do sisit. Judaism has 613 commandments, but there's countless details to how to do the mitzvah properly. And whoever studies 2 halachot a day is guaranteed to go to a place in heaven. Tana de Be'eliyahu kol hashoneh halachot. So the details are talked about in the Shulchan Aruch, and it's appropriate to always learn the Bet Yosef. The Chazon Ish writes this, and the Bet Yosef, he says, I only wrote the Shulchan Aruch, is a summary. He has another book, which is the precursor, that in there he comes and explains, he shows where he extrapolated and took all his halachot from. This halakha is a Gemara in Brachot. This halakha is a Talmud in Shabbat. This halakha is based on Maimonides. Shulchan Aruch is not making up any law. He's just did this ginormous favor to all the Jews in the world, where he was able to collect and condense all the traditions and laws regarding all the different holidays and Jewish tradition and conduct into a concise book. He says that you have to know, even Rav Ovadia Yosef, I can't reiterate this enough. This is a universally accepted thing. And I don't know what the Hasidic world does, but it's been universally accepted, whether in the Sephardic yeshivas or in Kollalim, that if you want to understand the first segment of Shulchan Aruch, you learn the Mishnah Berurah. Now there's many under one. There's Ish Matzliach, the Sephardic Yeshiva in Bnei Brak. They have a wonderful Mishnah Berurah, which would tell you how the Sephardic conclusion comes to these Mishnah Berurah's commentary. But right now, through divine providence, the king of all commentaries on Jewish law, daily law, which is the first segment of Orach Chaim, is the Mishnah Berurah. He was able to, like a Rashi, bring everything and concise and be able. So therefore, basically, I would say that the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is good, Jason. Jason, they're asking me online. The Mishnah Berurah has actually 6 different segments to it. It's been translated by Feldheim into English. And Shlomo Leib, your question, Mishnah Berurah is more advanced. It's somebody that's already gone to high school level Torah education. But Shlomo Leib, for example, somebody that's about Tshuva, yes, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch would have been. I just want to make sure everybody's understanding something here. This book, written by Rav Shlomo Wolbe, the Alie Shur, which we're teaching, is a little bit advanced. It's made for Yeshiva Bachrim. So I really appreciate those questions, and I love everybody on Facebook Live that is asking me. I would highly recommend anybody that was totally not religious and just became religious to go first to the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Rav Ovadia has a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, Rav Toledano, and then go to the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is an advanced level thing, which means somebody that went to Jewish school from 1st grade through 8th grade and 9th grade, he's ready to learn the Mishnah Berurah. So if you're about Tshuva, yes, probably you should spend a year or 2, maybe 3. Get advice from your local Orthodox Rebbe, your Rabbi, your Rebbe in Or Sameach or Eish HaTorah, wherever that may be, your spiritual mentor. But yes, answering the questions online, the Mishnah Berurah is a little bit difficult to learn, especially if you learn the Bir Halacha. My yeshiva, if you want to get the most basic SEMICHA, Ner Israel, they would give you 5 tests on the Mishnah Berurah. One of the volumes of the Mishnah Berurah is terribly difficult. It's what we're learning in Daf Yomi. It's the laws of Erubin. And the laws of Erubin are terribly difficult. Thank you, everybody, for listening. God willing, obviously, we dedicate this year. It's going to be my father's yahrzeit, Shlomo Chaim ben David. They're asking me online, anything for somebody in grade school level. Yes, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is the one that's more basic. Mishnah Berurah is more advanced. So I would first highly recommend, the Torah is just like any other education system. Obviously, it's a spiritual and godly one, but we always don't want to go from the first rung of the ladder to the 100th. That's where you fall down and break your head. So, yes, a lot of people are asking me online. Mishnah Berurah would be definitely the second halachic book to analyze. First, go through the Kitzur, or for Sephardim, we have the Ben Ishchai, which is wonderful. And maybe I'll just finish with this. My Rosh Hashiva Zatzar of Yaakov Weinberg said an amazing thing. He was a great fan of Rabbi Yosef Chaim of Baghdad. He said that they once, during the First World War, once we're on this subject, I'd love to share this with you. The Russian army was very anti-Semitic. So they let the Jewish soldier only take one book and put it in his backpack. So there was a whole dispute. What should they take? Should they take a Siddur? Should they take a Chumash? Should they take a Shulchan Aruch? Should they take a Musar, Mesillat Yesharim? So they asked Rav Chaim Briss, the Gadol Hador, he said they should take the Ben Ishchai, because it has all the laws, and in the beginning, in the introduction to each parsha, it has wonderful words of ethical enlightenment. So definitely, that's a disclaimer. This class that we're giving, it is intended for yeshiva bachrim that have an 8-9 year background going through a Torah Orthodox grade school. But the ideas are universal. And everybody, please go ahead and wonderfully ask all your questions, because they really enhance how I'm able to teach and tailor-made it for each person's level. But what the truth remains, that after you do something like the book of the Ben Ish Chai or the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the most vital, important halachic book to study, to get a true taste of what it means to be a Ben Torah, truly devoted to the Torah and its path, is the Shulchan Aruch with the Mishnah Berurah. We're going to start Mishnayot. Stay tuned for Mishnayot in 5 minutes, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.